Welcome to Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown. I'm your host, Michelle Brown. This is a podcast connecting people living between the lines, standing boldly in the crosshairs of their intersectionality and creating change. Since 2017, as Collections by Michelle Brown Blog Radio, we've shared the stories of over 150 individuals from every walk of life, from across the country and beyond. Now, under our new name, we'll continue sharing these intriguing and inspiring conversations. We partner with nonprofits, creatives, and other organizations to spread the good news that we're all stronger together. Our current partners include Lupus Detroit, the Esteem Awards, and Rainbow Room Publishing. Naomi Rivers is a team that writes lesbian romances and women's fiction. This writing team believes in romance, fairy tales, and happily ever after stories. They not only share their love of writing, but are wedded partners in life. Their first novel was written over 20 years to maintain their connection during multiple deployments. Their work has appeared in iHeart, Sapphic's anthology, Favorite Scenes from Favorite Authors. Their second book is in progress. They are both retired U.S. military veterans and reside with their 2 rescue dogs on the East Coast. Naomi Rivers has recently expanded from publishing to totes, journals, and a line of greeting cards featuring Black women reading. This February, they will be 2 of the featured artists in the series hosted by Rainbow Room Publishing, From a Black Perspective. Ladies, welcome to Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having us. We're glad to be here. In terms of Naomi Rivers as a wife writing team, we debuted our first novel last year, 2023. We used the name Naomi. It is a pen name. During our wedding, we read from the book of Ruth, and Naomi's people said, "Your people are my people." And in terms of Rivers, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" is our theme song. With being military vets that have crisscrossed the world, that theme song has followed us, and that's how we came up with Naomi Rivers.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you both for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, and we like being by water, whether that's the beach or the river or, walking down by the harbor here in Baltimore. It's our happy place. But we appreciate you asking that question because no one really has asked about the origin, why Naomi Rivers. So we appreciate that.
Now, 20 years, I know I've got a novel that I've been working on, for a while. And I know that I've done other things in between, but I haven't finished that novel. You had multiple deployments. How did you keep the story going? And did it evolve from the time you had the first ideal to what the finished product was last year that got published? And was that influenced by what you saw during those deployments?
Not necessarily influenced by. So we started writing as a way to remain connected. And you get a sense of the novel, of that back and forth in the novel and how the parallel conversations between the 2 main characters. Literally, I would write one chapter, Naomi would write another chapter, and we would exchange back and forth and sort of play off one another. The evolution of the story happened primarily when we hired an editor, and everybody should hire an editor. But to kind of refine things and make sure that it made sense and it flowed and it wasn't just us pontificating about some particular subject, that it fit and that every character, every scene, every word had a purpose, and that it careened towards happily ever after the way that we had envisioned. Now, I will say, and Naomi's a little chime in here, I thought we were just having a little writing exercise. Naomi, on the other hand, wanted to publish a book, and I didn't know that.
It started with, let's write a book. So River said, she wasn't clear that we were writing a book, but certainly by the time 20 years of back and forth, we had enough material to cut some out of it. And it was kind of funny when we would go back and look at it and go, oh gosh, we're still talking about pagers and flip phones and when you're talking about the early 2000s, and then what it looked like, from a rearview mirror in 2023, it was totally different.
Did you go back and change some things, like from a flip phone to a smartphone, or did you upgrade it, or did you say, you know what, it's going to be in the period of space that it actually was?
It was actually the latter, and so so it is set in 2002, 2003 time frame, and so it's interesting. People have told us that it's interesting to kind of look back on that time, because of course things weren't as ubiquitous as they are now, like pulling out a computer out of your pocket as easily as we do now. It was the early days of Google, and so there's a little scene in there about that. But we chose to keep it in the early 2000s. But we did have a read in terms of sensitivity, because there were probably some things that we handled differently 20 years later than when we originally wrote them.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to go back
and
change? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was saying that's one of the things that one of our reviews from Publishers Weekly said, that we captured the essence of the early 2000s in Baltimore. So that was kind of nice to see that they thought that we had done that well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Did you have to go back and change any of the names to protect the innocent?
We didn't use anybody's real names. The characters are a couplet, amalgamation of various people we've met along the way. So earlier you asked if we drew upon deployment. There is a character that is in the military, is getting ready to deploy, and so capturing that, of course, is something that we've experienced. However, the people that we've met along the way, I wouldn't say there's any one character that says, oh, somebody can identify to say that's me or anything like that. Although we've had friends that have, we've had situations where people are like those scenes in, what was the name of the movie with Taye Diggs? And he wrote the book, and the friends are Best Man. And the friends are like getting all irritated because they can identify themselves as the characters. We have had friends that have tried to do that, but there's no one character that's a particular friend or anything like that, and certainly we've not used anyone's name.
So you said you wrote it during deployment, and a lot has happened for the military. We went through Don't Ask, Don't Tell, now we went through this. Did you capture any of that? When you were writing that, did you touch on, everything, the personal is the political, that did occur, so did you tap into any of those kind of things that happened?
We touched on just the one character that is in the military, in terms of her serving in silence, but we are, not for this upcoming book, but probably book 3, we'll bring that character alive a little bit more and touch on her experiences in serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Ultimately, I don't know if we transition to, post Don't Ask, Don't Tell or whatever, but to your point, and so Naomi was National Guard, I was active duty, and so ironically, during the time that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being repealed, I was in a senior leadership position, and so we were actually literally training people to sort of, imagine what's going to happen or what it's going to be like post Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and so it was very interesting in that regard. But we haven't incorporated that in a very fulsome way into a novel just yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So, I think that I am, to be able to work with someone, but particularly you're in a relationship and you're writing, your wives, you got to, I know that even I self-edit myself sometimes, and, I go back and no, I don't want to do this. I shouldn't put that in there. How did you two come up with that back and forth on what was going to make the final cut? Was it strongly more influenced by one of you than the other, or was it equal give and take?
I think it was an equal give and take in that, the final outcome was to be a book. And the editor also played a good hand in that, in some things that I thought may have been a little bit more important, or something that Rivers may have written in a longer form, and she thought she being the editor thought it would be better here, or at the end of something, so that the story flowed. Mm-hmm. There were times that, since we were writing back and forth, I think the first book, we didn't know what we were doing, so we didn't necessarily plot. It's the truth. We didn't really plot it out. And so I remember sending it back, and Rivers, because we would email back and forth because we were, separated by, a few continents. She said, they broke up. You made them break up? And I was very proud of myself. I'm like, yeah, I did. And then thinking, oh, she has to now figure out how to move this story forward from that. So, so for those people who are plotters and those who are pantsers, and I have a whole new appreciation for how to put that together now.
I will say that when the editor got to that part, the editor also was like, what is this? Like, what? And so I was a little bit vindicated in that regard. Like, the editor could naturally see a natural progression towards like the HEA, the happily ever after, but then it imploded, and the editor wasn't necessarily feeling that either. So.
Okay. Now you said one of you was just writing. The other one had a book in mind all along. What made the difference when you're thinking like a book all along or just writing? Did you both have a background in writing? Because I know that you said you like fairy tales, you like romance, happily ever. Did you both of you have a background in writing, even if it was just like for yourself? Or was it something that you studied in school? When did the writing bug bite each of you?
Rivers is looking at me like I'm not sure it's bitten me yet. But so I have in my work life, I've published professionally, but not something of a fiction outcome. We read a lot. We read a lot, and we not always romances. I like a good thriller, a good psychological thriller, a crime, procedural, historical kind of fiction book. So we've read a lot, and here's where I guess we took Toni Morrison to heart. When you write the story you want to read, write the story that you want to see yourself, people that look like you, people that love like you. Write that story, and I think that's what we did. There's no trauma, nobody gets killed in the end. So it's a love story, and I think ladies like us or folks that identify like us, there should be some love. We get the love too.
That's interesting because I've met with a lot of authors and I've been on panels and stuff, and there are some who felt like they couldn't write the story they wanted to because in order to be quote unquote successful, and in fact they were looking for like a mainstream publisher or whatever, that they felt that there was something that these other publishers, editors were looking for out of sane gender-loving people. Like, I know women who said, well, they went to people and they said, well, they were okay with some of it, but then they always wanted like some type of redemption. Some man broke their heart sometime, or they find God and get right and find a man. They said there was always doing that. And some said, okay, well, I'll compromise to do that. And others said, I'll just self-publish, forget it, How did you determine? And that's kind of sad, because like you said, we have very rich stories and great love stories and great love to do that. When you got ready to publish and you went and you got you found an editor and do that, what were your goals? Did you say, hey, I want to see this one day on whatever, I want to be on Oprah's book list or something like that? Or, did you just sort of say, we want to write this and put it out there for who needs to hear and read these stories?
So Naomi is going to tell you this grandiose story in a minute, but when we came to the conclusion, or when I guess I was convinced that, okay, we're going to actually publish a thing, we started sort of researching what's the best way and trying to figure out which way we would go. And fairly early on, we decided we wanted to self-publish, but in just getting there to figure out, like, okay, what do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? And who could help us that, could be a mentor and those kinds of things. So, and we literally met the editor at a book talk in a bookstore in Evanston. So we were looking to figure out who could help us birth this thing into the world. For me, it was, let's get it into the world. For Naomi, it was a little bit different.
I thought that we could initially go the more traditional route of finding and doing all the queries that were necessary. But I quickly learned that there are a number of gatekeepers that, as you alluded to earlier, no, they don't necessarily want that story. You got to change a few things, and I think this was the piece that for me that finally I went, nope, we're not doing this, was send us your manuscript. We're going to hold it for maybe 16 weeks, and then we'll give you an answer. And so those 16 weeks added up to years, or could have potentially added up to years very quickly. And we met someone at a book festival and just asked her to look at the blurb. And so she went off, kind of left on a tangent about how self-publishing was kind of less than traditional publishing. And I don't agree with that. I just think it's a different route that works better for some than for others. But it's funny that you mentioned Oprah. When we published, the day that we published, March the 7th, I took the day off because when it hit, Amazon and not necessarily Kindle, but Ingram Sparks and all of the places that it was supposed to hit, I was waiting for Oprah to call or Reese or Jenna. And so I took the day off thinking, okay, well, it's out there. And so when we didn't get any phone calls, I thought, oh, well, I need to go back to work the next day because this isn't going to take off like or at least like I thought it was. I've come to find out marketing is a beast. And you have to, yes.
Writing the book is the easiest part, relatively speaking.
And we have a few talents. I mean, we're organized, we're disciplined. Rivers is a graphic designer, so I mean, we had some in-house talent that we could pull from. But yeah, marketing is a beast.
It is. It really is. Do you find, because actually I was talking to someone and they said, and one of my good friends, when I met him, he said, he had this little tote with his books because he said he had all these other people, but he knew that the best salesperson for his books was himself. And he made sure that he was on panels, he was here, he was there, so that they bought, people, because a lot of it is the personality. When you're talking about your books and that, then they want to say, well, what did they have to say? And that's what he said, that he, marketing, he just figured this is great. And, even though they told him, we're going to do this and that, but he found that if he wasn't out there pushing it, nobody would. So how did you feel when the editor came in and, here you told your story, and she was, like you said, you wanted them to break up, and she said, oh, no, how did you feel turning your baby over to an editor, and how was it as far as, were you able to go with some of the changes, or did you say, I kind of like that as it is, we're sticking with this?
It was, to answer your question straight away, it was scary. You're sending your work to, be criticized by someone. But we ended up incorporating a majority of the editor's comments. There was probably only one or two that we didn't, and part of that was probably because like a culturally related kind of stuff that we knew that people that looked like us could understand, and maybe there may have been a little gap there, but other than that, she was very detailed, very thoughtful,
spot on.
Spot on, and it really made the book much better.
Yeah, okay, and was your editor white or black or whatever?
She's an older white lady. Yeah.
And straight, I think.
Right. And but I also think what was helpful for her was that she was from Chicago. She I got the sense once we really got to talking, much more liberal-minded than I probably would have thought meeting her in the bookstore. I mean, it was bookends and beginning. So, I just think people who really read, their minds are a lot more open. And it was good. I mean, she really went through kind of the whole developmental, the line edit. She was Pamela was excellent.
Did you find, and I'll tell you one of the things, because I've written things like, in fact, some of it was poetry, but I wrote it like from my personal point of view, and that's part of it. But I had someone who was, like a whole generation different than me and white, and she got it. Not exactly in the same way that I was talking it, but what I was trying to express, she got it. And when you were working with your editor, did she ever like come back in some part where it was like, this is spot on, I got it, and you realize that, because we don't write just for one audience. What you write can touch anybody. But did you ever have that moment when, you were in your heart saying, I hope she's okay with this, or she doesn't say to change this because this is really what happened between the two of us? And when she came back to you and that part was like, oh, yeah.
There were a few. At one point, one of the characters was leaving her girlfriend, and the girlfriend tried to come back, and so that dialogue she wrote in there. Finally, it's about time, and so and so she had some encouraging words in those margins as well. So no, she was spot on. I mean, even with some of the more salacious, and it's not erotic by any means, but even with some of the more salacious scenes, she was good and comfortable with.
And let me be clear: the book is not it's not our story per se. Like I said, there may be parallels or similarities, but it's not us.
Hello?
We're here.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know, because there's some things that even though you write, you want it to be something that anybody can pick it up. They'll follow the story. They'll feel it.
Yes.
Because some of the things, we can be all different sizes, shapes, shades, but there's that heart part. I want them to get together. I want them to break up. I don't want them to break up. But you want to be able to reach out to that. So you were telling me about marketing. Who are you marketing it? How are you going about marketing it?
So we figured our marketing audience was, when those overviews, they ask you, who's your marketing audience? And if the author says everybody, they've not thought about it. So we kind of whittled it down. We knew that our audience was going to be likely women of color, somewhere between 30 plus, or higher, and that looked and loved like us. Now, I will tell you, as you mentioned your friend earlier who said he did his best selling, when we go to vend, people that don't fit into any of those categories are buying the books. And I think it has more to do with the connection that we're making with people. I think it has to do with the love story. I mean, love is universal, and maybe that's not your type of, relationship, but you can appreciate the story. My godmother read the book, and I didn't want her to read the book. I just wanted her to buy the book. And she came back and gave me a little critique of the book, and I was like, "Oh my God, you read the book?" And she was, and she's an educator. I should preface that. And she was like, "It was a good book. It was a good book, and I understood. And wow, you wrote a book. Good."
Wow. Yeah, that's it. Did you each tell your family, hey, that you were working on this book and it was going to be there and they wanted, to look it over? And did you encourage them, or did you, say, I'm going to do this book. You're going to, I want you to take a look at it. Did any of them pre-read it and have an idea of it before it hit the shelves?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, not definitely not the pre-read. Naomi's family has, some of them have purchased it and read it. I sort of put it out that I was associated with this book because I did the cover, but I didn't say that I was the author. But if it doesn't take people if you looked hard enough and compared various things, you could figure out that it's me. But anyway, but nobody has come back to say, oh yeah, this is, hey, what's going on with this? But we had friends, really good friends. In addition to our editor, we had a couple really good friends as beta readers, and they were very helpful in that regard as well. So not family, but definitely friends.
And the other part of that is, I think it was some fear. I can say that honestly. There was some fear in telling, closer friends and or family that we wrote a book, because I didn't know how it was going to be received. Not the love story part, but just the fact that it put us in. Or I'll speak for me. It put me in more of a vulnerable spot to say, is this good? Is it worthy? Did you enjoy it? No, we didn't initially tell folks. We put it out there and marketed it, and then people were like, well, tell me about this book that's sitting on your coffee table. And that's how we've shared, and we have since shared, with friends and family, but that's literally has only been in the last 4 months that we've kind of expanded to the people that we know about the book.
Well, in the interesting thing for me, of course, I have a lot of friends that are veterans, and there's a group of us that meet about quarterly, and hey, what's going on in your life, and sort of, hey, yeah, man, Naomi wrote this book, and it was like, really? So they purchased it again. Like Naomi, I expected them to, hey, yeah, I appreciate you supporting me. But they, actually read it, and I'm talking, straight guys that, you would see these folks and you go, yeah, he looks like a veteran, but, and it was amazing to me that, yeah, I took the time to read it. Oh, okay. And like Naomi said, you kind of grimace like, okay, what did you think? But they've been very gracious and kind and very supportive.
Well, that totally makes sense, because I know that as I've written and it's like, okay, and you're waiting to if somebody go like, you wrote that or whatever, and and you have that moment, you feel good about it, but someone who might be a little more critical, that was sort of like, you're scared. I mean, really, it's something you put your heart and soul in. I often tell people that I am amazed that I still write, because when I was a kid, I would write stories, and I had an aunt who was a teacher who would send them back corrected in red pen ink, but I was undaunted. So if I tell people, I said, well, you know what? I got by the red pen. I'm going to do this and put it out there. But it is, it's scary. So I know that you're getting ready. You said that you have another book planned. So
yes.
When do you think it will be done? Are you still working on it, or is it done, or is it in the editing phase?
Still working. No. It is. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting here staring at the manuscript right now. So we did this one. The writing of it was done slightly different than the sort of back and forth. This one, Naomi wrote the whole thing, and actually plotted it out. We plotted it out, and then Naomi wrote it, and then Rivers is now editing it and sort of putting some sauce on it, and so it's taken a bit longer, but longer than Naomi would like, but we're getting there. Hopefully, we're trying to get into the editor, such that we can maybe have a Christmas-ish New Year's release, but we're trying it again. It's the manuscript is there. We're just trying to Rivers is trying to get through it, and Naomi is staring at me like, yeah, get on with it. But it'll be out.
Yeah. Why not us? Book number 2.
Same editor.
Yes, same editor.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, and I think that's good, because she understands you and your style and everything like that. So, I know that you're expanding, and I like the idea. Are the totes and the journals, are all of those sort of like reflective of the characters? I mean, I know they said it's Black women reading, but are they reflective of the characters in a simple love story, or is it just like to show women reading?
It is to show women reading. We've toyed with a number of ideas of how to bring those things about, and you bring up a very good point that would likely help with the marketing of the books. So we'll probably be, a little bit more themed, but I am also, Rivers is also an artist, as Naomi mentioned, and so the greeting cards and they're blank on the inside, and they're made from watercolors that I've done, and Naomi does the handcrafted shopping bags, the tote bags, and so it's a way to continue our creativity. And again, when we're, to your point, when we're vending in person, it's we sort of bundled them, and it's worked very well.
So here in Baltimore, a lot of the counties now, they don't allow. Well, they charge you. They charge you for your bags. Kind of like in Chicago. The first time we got to Chicago and they asked if we want a bag, I'm like, sure, we want a bag. Until I realized you had to pay for them. So here in Baltimore now, it's the same thing. And you don't always want to have an advertisement for a Wegmans or for a grocery store. And so they're kind of cute reversible bags that people have started to look for. And some of the prints are women of color, and of course those have been the ones that have gone first, as opposed to the ones that River says look like my little old lady bags with the little Waverly print. I am a floral person at heart, so I have to try to expand all of the tote bags so they don't look like little bags. And then we have the journals and the notebooks. Those probably have a little bit more of a theme to them, just in terms of journaling and gratitude and beach scenes. And I think the last one was just because the man said something about childless cat ladies. We were like, no, we're going to put a journal out here with a little cat on it. So, yeah, we've kind of expanded, but like River said, it's been good.
So you've got 2 rescue dogs. Besides that, I love people who rescue animals. So you've got your family, you've got your little family business going. What's next for you two besides getting the book out and continuing? I know you, in my intro, I said you're both retired. Travel, book fairs, what's next for you?
So we just literally, not 2 weeks ago, was it last? It's not been 2 weeks. We did the Baltimore Book Festival, sat in on a great panel about Black love, resistance, and rebellion. So we're doing that, trying to find and get in front of learning about more book fairs. We've done Pride events. Usually June, Pride Month, is pretty busy for us. Just in terms of whether it's vending or whether it's speaking at different affairs. But some travel. We just got back from Alaska.
Wow.
We have a beautiful country. Alaska was, I don't know what I thought Alaska was going to be. I did learn there's a difference between a glacier and an iceberg. I just, who knew? I didn't know.
And what is that difference?
Well, the glacier, because of climate warming, some of them are falling into the water.
Glaciers are frozen rivers that come through mountain valleys, and icebergs are floating ice on I I needed to help her out. She was gonna dance around that thing, but
but
yeah.
Well, one day there's going to be a book, and there's going to be a glacier or an iceberg.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
So, I think that this is a great time. I think it's great that you're writing these books, and I've seen more women, more same-gender loving women now who are writing and telling their real stories, and it starts out one way and then it grows. And like you said, the book fairs, sometimes they're plugging into universities and they say, oh, well, here, it's Women's History Month, and you come in and do that. And, I think that it's really exciting, the path that you two are on. And we all being WNBA fans, I'm not going to keep you real long. Yeah. But you know what? Hasn't that made you feel good, too, to see in audiences representation? Families, couples, that we're there with regular people, and I just love that.
That's right. I mentioned we had a WNBA story. We actually met at the Mystics WNBA game many, many, many years ago, when the Mystics used to have the best attendance
records, yeah.
for the league. So we were one in 15,000 that we actually met at the WNBA game.
Well, you know what, and that's great because do you know how many people have been sleeping on the WNBA, for years?
Correct.
And so I think that it's really great that they're out there, and it's like I watch with friends. We'll have calls. Did you see that? Did you see that? Because we're and we tease about the different ones, and oh well, she's family, But it's nice. Hey, that's my boo. No, it's not your boo. In your dreams.
That's funny. That's right.
I think it's good. I really appreciate you being my guest tonight and talking about, your lives. I would love to, in the near future, have you back on and talk more, if that's agreeable with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then I'd also, as we go along, I'd like to connect you to women I know who are writing. I had, and because, as we talk and we share things, it really helps us hone our craft and give us ideas and also where are they going to do that? You talked about different book fairs and things like that. I know a couple of women who are writing. I know one is out of Chicago, but now she lives in Arkansas, but she wrote her first book is out, and I know she's working on another one. But we're all over. There's pockets of women all over writing and doing really great. And as we connect, we can tell other people about it. It doesn't always have to be, this one on there. Next time you can say, oh, well, this is another group of people who are writing. So that's part of what I try to do is connect that network. And of course, I'm going to pick your brain too. I say, one day when I feel brave and I'll take away all your red pens, I might send you something like that. Oh, what do you think about this?
Yeah,
yeah. But that's how we learn and that's how we grow, right? Because nobody knows all of this information in a vacuum. It is because people have shared, and we believe in doing that as well. So yeah, please, we'll reach out. We'll stay connected.
Oh, definitely. And sometimes I get your way, so we'll go out and have tea or something, just so I never know what I'm going to do. But anyhow, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. Eddie Pierce told me about you. Love Eddie. My literary brother from another mother. Yeah, literary brother from another mother. I talked to him last night, and he just, oh, good, I'm so glad. And So, I mean, you're part of the family now. So, ladies,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we're actually in his latest anthology from the Homeland.
I know.
So,
well, you know,
this is all good.
Part of what we're doing is building up to that. And so the people will, when they get that book, they'll go like, you know what? I know them. You know, they already kind of sort of know you, you know. So it's sort of like a warm build up to it. So, and so I know I'll talk to you again as it gets closer to a big kickoff that he's planning for that.
Okay, that's
wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Okay, so I have to count. Wait a minute. Be quiet for a minute.
I want to thank my guest, the wife writing team of Naomi Rivers, for kicking off the inaugural episode of Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown. They are two of the featured artists in the anthology trilogy published by Rainbow Room Publishing, From a Black Perspective. Join the conversation. You can follow us on Facebook, Blue Sky, and Instagram, and become a monthly supporter on patreon.com. Do you have an idea for a story, a coming event, or a Shiro hero we should know about? Send us a message on Facebook or email us at collectionsbymichellebrown@gmail.com. Current and past episodes of the show can be heard on SoundCloud. Stay tuned as we continue to introduce you to more amazing individuals living between the lines, standing boldly in the crosshairs of their intersectionality, and creating change. Thank you for listening to Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown.